All right, let's dive into a really cool research tool called triangulation. Now, it sounds kind of technical, but it's a surprisingly simple idea that's, well, fundamental to how we build knowledge we can actually trust. And it's got an origin story you would never, ever expect. Let's get into it. So it all really starts with this one big question. In research, just like in life, a single viewpoint can be totally biased, or it's just plain incomplete. So what's the fix? How do researchers get past just one perspective to see the whole story and not just one little potentially misleading piece of it? Well, that leads us right into our first section. What in the world is triangulation? The name might sound a little intimidating, but I promise you, the idea itself is incredibly intuitive. It's all about getting to the real story by looking at a problem from a bunch of different angles. At its heart, triangulation is just the practice of using multiple sources or methods to get a result you can actually trust. The best way to think about it is like an old-school navigator on a ship. You can't figure out your exact location with just one landmark on the horizon. Nope. You need two, or even better, three, to know exactly where you are. Research, it works the exact same way. And here's the bottom line. Any single method, any single data source, or even any single researcher can have these hidden biases we don't even see. Triangulation is the solution to that problem. By checking our findings from all these different viewpoints, we can see if they actually hold up under pressure. Think of it as the ultimate stress test for making sure our conclusions are solid and believable. Okay, so how do researchers actually do this? How do they put it into practice? Well, they have a toolkit with 4 key strategies for building out that fuller picture. Let's open it up and see what's inside. These are the 4 big ones, the essential tools in the whole triangulation toolkit: data, methodological, investigator, and theoretical. Let's break down what each of these actually means. So first up is data triangulation, and this one is probably the most straightforward. It just means you gather your information from a bunch of different sources. So for example, you might look for the same pattern in data from different times of the year, or from different cities, or by talking to different groups of people. If all those different sources are pointing to the same thing, your confidence in that finding just shoots way up. Then you've got methodological triangulation. This is all about using different research methods to look into the same question. So imagine you combine a huge survey that gives you all the hard numbers with some really deep personal interviews that give you the stories behind those numbers. If the data and the stories are telling the same tale, you're onto something really solid. A third way to do this is called investigator triangulation. And really, it's all about teamwork. With this one, you have multiple researchers look at the same data, but they do it independently. It's a super powerful way to check against any one person's individual biases or their blind spots. It helps make sure the conclusions are as objective as they can possibly be. And the final tool in the kit is theoretical triangulation. This one's a little more abstract, but it's powerful. It means you look at your data through different intellectual lenses. So could your findings be explained by a principle from economics? Or maybe psychology? Or sociology? By looking at the same data through all these different theories, you can unlock much, much richer insights and a far more complete picture. Now, here's where the story gets really fun. Where did this powerful research idea actually come from? You probably guessed it was cooked up in some lab or a stuffy university library, right? Well, its roots are somewhere way more adventurous than that. Yeah, it wasn't born in a university. It was born somewhere far more practical. It was born at sea. The whole concept comes directly from navigation, where for centuries, sailors would use multiple fixed points, like stars or landmarks, to figure out their precise location on a map. It was just a simple, brilliant solution to what was literally a life-or-death problem. And you can see that journey from sea to science right here. For centuries, it was a tool for sailors and map makers. Then, boom, 1959. A couple of researchers, Campbell and Fisk, adapt the idea for social science. Others start to build on it, but the big moment is in the 1970s, when a sociologist named Norman Denzin formalizes that 4-part framework that researchers are still using today. So when Campbell and Fisk first brought this idea over, their goal was something they called convergent validation. It's a fancy term, I know, but the idea behind it is dead simple. Do different ways of measuring the same thing all point to the same conclusion? If they do, then you can be a whole lot more confident that you're onto something real. But the real hero in this story, you could say, is Norman Denzin. He's the one who took that core idea in the 1970s and really expanded it into the full toolkit we just talked about, those 4 distinct types of triangulation. He gave researchers, especially qualitative researchers, a complete strategy for building trust in their work. So, how does this all wrap up? Why does this concept still matter so much today? Well, it's because the whole purpose of triangulation has actually evolved. It's not just about proving you're right anymore. And this shows a really crucial shift in thinking. The original goal, it was pretty simple. Find one single correct answer to confirm a finding. But today, the goal is way more sophisticated. It's about getting a deeper, more nuanced understanding of something. It's about using all these different perspectives, not just to confirm what you think you know, but to uncover complexity and richness. The goal today isn't just to prove a point. It's to enhance the trustworthiness of the entire investigation. Okay, so if you only remember 3 things from all this, make it these. Number 1, triangulation is how we actively fight bias by using multiple perspectives. 2, it involves using different data, different methods, different researchers, or different theories. And 3, the ultimate goal isn't just to be right, but to build trust and add real depth to what we know. And that brings us to one last question, and this one's for you. When you're facing a big decision or trying to understand a complex issue, are you just relying on one source of information? Think about it. What important issue in your own life could benefit from a little triangulation? Something to chew on. Thanks for joining us.